straight out to Jim Kirkwood, host KTKK. Jim, thanks for being with us. What can you tell me about the remains that have been found there in the desert?
Nancy, the near Delta is a place called Topaz Mountain, where people go and look for topaz rocks and things like that. And Josh and Susan used to go camping in that area. It's only 25 to 30 miles from Simpson Springs, where Josh claims he took those two boys 2 years ago this coming December, back in December of '09, took them camping on a sub-zero night. And it's interesting, from the police search warrant they did on Josh Powell's home with where he lives with his father in the state of Washington. They got some of the locations he liked to go camping. This was one of them. They turned 4 cadaver dogs loose, and they did find human remains. They brought in an archaeologist from the Bureau of Land Management in Fillmore, and she is taking a look. And apparently the human remains are within the range. So this is exciting for those who want this finished.
Well, what I don't understand, Jim Kirkwood, is what led police to that spot to start with. I mean, it's a pretty obscure spot to just pop up with a search for a dead body. So what led them there? A tip?
No, it was the journals and the records that Josh and Susan kept when they went camping. And so the police got that in that raid on Josh's home in the state of Washington and went from there. That's why they centered on this area. And they are treating it as a crime scene, Nancy. They left guards overnight. So the police, we don't know for sure what's going on there yet, but the police are very interested in this site.
Okay, everybody, for those of you just joining us, it is possible that the remains of mother of 2, Susan Powell, have been found out in the desert. We are waiting to get some type of a positive confirmation as to whether this remains are her. I want to go to Heather Walsh-Haney, forensic anthropologist, joining us out of Florida. Heather, how will they be able to tell?
Well, what they're going to do is look at the context of the soils and any personal effects or artifacts that may be around the skeleton. Then they'll evaluate the sex, the age, the ancestry, and they'll look for unique traits on that skeleton that might lead to a positive identification. One of the first steps that they're going to take is to determine whether the bones that they've found are female or not. In order to make that determination, what they'll do is they'll look at the bones of the pelvis. They'll look to see that those bones are wide, that they could accommodate the birth of a child, and that would tell them that they were female. They'd also double-check themselves by looking at the cranium and the mandible. They'd look to see that the mandible had a pointy chin, which is what females have, and that the brow ridge was very slight, very gracile. Then they'd look to make sure that those skeletal remains are adult. So they'd ensure that there are no baby teeth present in the jaw, that all of the bones are fused, meaning the joint surfaces, and then they'd even measure the long bones of the legs to determine the stature, or how tall these skeletal remains are. Once they do that, they'll compare that height range with those to establish a positive ID.
Right, right.